Okay, thank you. Good evening and welcome to the City of Groton Committee of the Whole for Tuesday, November 12th, 2024. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Hedrick, Deputy Mayor Depot, Councilor Piazza, Councilor Artali, Councilor Sheffield are present.
Okay, so new business referrals. I'm going to start out with D, which is a donation. So, Mr. Dixon, if you could come up, please, we'll need to turn on the microphone.
Hello, everybody.
I thought I had sent this to everybody electronically, but just in case, you have a hard copy in front of you. So he is, Mr. Dixon, I'll let you present your program and what's your request.
How you guys doing? My name is David Dixon Jr. I'm a basketball coach in the New London County. I live in Groton, Connecticut. I grew up in Groton, Connecticut, specifically Branford Manor. My program helps kids that are underprivileged play AAU travel basketball at a competitive level instead of just, local, where they get to play in different tournaments, sometimes out of state, a lot of in-state tournaments. This fall, we were able to win 5 championships at the Vertical Hoops championships. A lot of the parents can't continue to play each season, so it kind of gives us not the same edge as a lot of these other kids that can't afford to play all year long. So a lot of the costs, I've just been kind of putting it up because I don't want these kids to miss an opportunity to play basketball, and a lot of it is an outlet for them to just, bond with friends and meet new people and travel and do things that they've never done. We try to do like educational things with them also. We have a debate team on Mondays where we had a few lawyers, a judge come in, and they help the kids figure out how to debate topics and stuff like that. So this is an outlet that's, helping kids that don't really have any after-school things and travel things on the weekend. This is something for them.
Okay, and
I
I have an email from you with your request.
I'm sorry?
I have an email from you for your request, so you're
Yes.
requesting
So
a donation?
the tuition for a child to play is $400 for this winter. We play in 4 tournaments. 2 of those will be at Mohegan Sun. I have 2 players that live in the city of Groton. Robert Martinez, I believe him and his mom came last week. And Ashley Braceno, she just moved to 74 Brandegee. What I'm asking for is $800 for them to play in the winter.
Okay, so if you look at the request, the initial request that's in your packet is for $400. When I talked to Mr. Dixon this morning, he identified that there was an additional City of Groton resident that is part of the program and that he would request for that amount as well. So the total would be for $800. And with that, I will open the floor for, thank you, open the floor for discussion. Councilor Sheffield.
Mr. Dixon, thank you for coming, and this is a great opportunity that we have to give to these kids. And now, this is for just this season that you'll need this?
Correct, for the winter.
Okay, and are we going to keep having more, you play like fall, spring, or this
So
carries?
this is an all-year program that I'm doing.
Okay.
So in December, we'll start focusing on more of training. I feel like the kids need more time focusing on sharpening their skills versus just playing. As you can see, we take pictures, we win trophies. A lot of the parents love it. And, it's my program. I want to run it the way it's supposed to be done. A lot of the other organizations are ran solely based off of money, so they just appease to what the parents want and just continue to have these kids play in tournaments, but they're not growing. They're not getting better, and I'm pretty sure you guys are seeing it. The kids, the competition level in the area that when I was here from 2004 to 2007 when I played, there were a lot of Division I players and athletes, but we were outside more. Now punishment is for the kids to go outside. So I want to get them back to, focusing on the basics passing right, shooting the ball right, playing IQ basketball versus just running around playing. So from December to March, we'll do a training, and then from March to May, it's spring season. Then from June to August is summer, and back to fall.
Now, how many players do you have on the team? How many?
Right now, we have roughly 30 players. Some kids come and go, depending on what season it is. Some kids play football, so they won't play for the fall, but then they'll play in December. Then some kids play for other teams in the winter. Winter is like middle school basketball, right? So a lot of the kids are playing for their teams. So I try to let them focus on what they're learning with their coaches and not interfere with what they're doing.
Okay. Now, the ages from what age to what age? For you?
So my youngest players are like around 8 to 14 years old.
8 to 14?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So how old are these two players that you have now?
Ashley is 13 and Robert is 13. They're both in the 8th grade.
Okay, so they'll have only one more year to play after this season?
I'll continue to move up with the kids. I've been coaching the same group of kids for 3 years now. So I'll continue to move up, and the brand has grown from 2 teams to now 4 teams. In the spring, we'll have 5 teams. I'm really just learning what I'm doing and just trying to pick the right people. So I coach all 4 teams right now. I wouldn't be able to coach 8 teams, but I would want to, get big enough to where I could hire good people that could upstand the same standards that I've been able to raise my brand to. So I plan on growing at least a lot more.
Okay, thank you.
Other counselors? Deputy Mayor Depot?
Thank you for coming. I have a few questions. So, how many years have you been doing this program?
So this program has been around for 3 years.
And are you registered with like the as an LLC or a
I'm a nonprofit organization since January. I think I have that in one of those documents.
And do you get donations from other? Where do you get your funding
So
from?
a lot of our funding is just simply going outside and doing lemonade stands. We just did an apple cider fundraiser at Valentino's. Some businesses help out, depending on a lot of players' parents and family members have businesses. We've been able to get donations from there, but that's really where it ends. I'm still trying to learn how to write grants and figure all of this out, so I'm just like scratching that air.
So do all the players, is it every player pays $400 a year or is responsible for $400 a year? Is that the fee?
For the season. So fall season would be $400, winter season is $400, and I try to break those payments up in $100 a week. Most of the people can't pay, right? So if I want to keep the program going, this is my dream. I got to come out of my pocket to pay for it, right? So that's where I try to at least get outside and fundraise to see what we can get from the community. But it's only so many times you can go and sell lemonade to people before you run out of funding. So, that's why I'm reaching out anywhere possible to try to find these kids a way, because the ones that can pay, they'll suffer too, because the kids that can't pay, guess what? They're the best players, right? But they can't pay. But they love basketball. So it's like they all need each other to be great at what they're doing, because this area is very small and we're competing on a national level. These kids are really good. I think that they deserve a shot to, go as far as they want to go. And I think the focus on, holding the standard so high with just playing a high level of basketball, it's not just about that. In order for you to reach that, you have to have a certain level of discipline. And I think that discipline translates to their education. A lot of my kids are on the honor roll, and they come from troubled backgrounds. And some of them are in shelters, some of them are living house to house, and they're on the honor roll, so.
Excuse me. And what is your, you may not have this because you're changing in size rapidly, but what do you have an annual budget for the program?
We just started, really. Roughly, I'd say 12,000.
And I just lost my train of thought on the last question I had. Shoot, I had another question and I forgot it. Oh, so can you give an example? I know your letter says the money is to secure equipment and practice facilities. Can you, like, when a family comes and says, like, what is the $400 for? Like, can you explain, like, what that $400 goes to per student?
So, the price point that I'm charging is probably 50% of what the real teams charge. I'm literally just paying for the tournament fees, which are anywhere from $300 to $500 per tournament. For each team, I got 4 teams. So this fall, I just had to shell out $4,000 for those teams to play, and that was they gave me a discount. And that was at a point where a lot of the players still didn't pay. But we still had a great season, and we were able to accomplish a lot. So, the registration fees is where a lot of the costs go to. Gym fees, we at the Williams School right now, they're charging us $50 a day. I asked for the money to see if the parents could pay. They can't pay. What am I gonna tell them? They can't come to the Williams School where their kid could possibly get an education at some point. But having a relationship with the Williams School, being there, I've never been exposed to it, and I've been living here for 20 years. And I just found out what it was. So those kids never been there. It's a great opportunity for them. So I pay that. It's $50 a day. We have 4 practices a week, right? And then so that's a lot.
Lastly, I just have a comment. I want to say, I think what you're doing is really awesome. It's
you.
challenging work. I work for a nonprofit, and
Thank you.
it's challenging to accomplish things with limited amounts of money. So I just want to encourage you to make connections, because there's a lot of teams, and I'm sure you already have a little bit, but we have a lot of people who coordinate similar projects where you have teams and you have to pay for all those types of fees. And I know in the town, like the Little League and the Football League, they all have similar challenges. And I'm betting that, since you're just starting out, you could probably make some good connections there and get some good advice on how they kind of funded theirs.
Please, point me in the direction. I'll go.
Yeah, I would say, because we've gotten requests from the Groton Mystic Falcons before. We've donated money to them for their football team. And like I said, it's tough to make all those connections. So I think one good place is to look at other local teams that are also nonprofit, because we have a few around here that have done it for a while. That would be probably a great resource for you to help you make some of those connections.
If you have any contact information, please.
Yeah, I'll definitely.
I will,
I was going to say, I know that the mayor does, because
Okay.
they've contacted us.
I definitely know who the Little League point of contact is. I'll have to reach out to find who the MCYFL contact is, because that changes periodically. But, and I'm not sure who the latest one is, but I will send you an email
Okay.
with their contact information. Or actually, I got your phone number. I may send you their contact card.
Thank you.
Were you?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Counselor Piazza?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for coming, and
Thank
thank you for putting all this time and effort in.
Thank you.
I commend that. So just wanted to ask, comment. $400 for a season is super cheap.
Yes.
It's very cheap. Also, my daughter was a swimmer through a co-op team, but also competitively through another organized.
I
It
can
wasn't
imagine how much
503,
that
but
was.
yeah, it's a lot of money, to travel. So I think all this opportunity that they have. I would like to say that I used to. Now this is totally kind of like a little different. I did a ministry, and they decided they wanted to go on traveling, and do their dance and their drama, and go on tour.
Right.
So we made a budget about how much it was going to cost, and we did our own fundraising. So I would like to reach out to you to tell you the things that we did that are still present today,
Yes.
and another fundraiser that you could actually do that goes year-round.
Yes.
And I'll
yes,
contact you with
yes,
that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, that I'll take a motion. So the The resolution we have in front of you is 400, but the request is 800. I'll take a motion to move this to the mayor and council meeting of 18 November 2024.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carries. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you
everybody.
for
Appreciate
coming.
it. Thank you.
Have a great night.
All right, let's get back on track. Where did Chief go? There he goes. All right, the climate survey I am taking up. We're not ready to bring that to you yet. So with that, I'll bring up Chief Burton with Police Department, traffic camera ordinance, and then traffic calming request form. The first one, I'll ask you to move to a mayor and council, and the second one is informing. So Chief?
Thank you, Mayor. So, automated enforcement systems deal with traffic cameras that can measure speed and red lights. It gives the local traffic authority under 14307, which is a state statute that covers it, the authority to create or to install these AESs or automatic enforcement systems, dependent upon some of the criteria that's set forward in a public act that was generated in 23, which is 23-116. And there are requirements as far as what any municipality would have to do if they actually want to look at the use of these systems. What we would be looking to do is to put them in place to assist us with traffic calming, specifically speeding, in locations that see a high volume of traffic. One of the things, for example, requirements are that we have to come out with a complete volume study on how many cars that we see on that particular road in the course of a day, along with accident rates. We have to look at enforcement rates, and we look at crashes. And all of that gets put together in a packet, and it gets sent up to the state of Connecticut. And DOT looks at it. They're the umbrella organization, and they tell us yes or no. We can't just pick a site and put a camera on it. We have to get approval from the state. Before we do any of that, the number one thing that we have to do is create an ordinance. That's step one. So I reached out, found an ordinance. It was the town of Washington, Connecticut. They are the first ones in the state to get it approved. By the way, we also have to send our ordinance up to the state to get it approved. So having known that and the language that was going back and forth and the work being done by Washington, once that was completed, then I took that and changed it over to match the city, just basically changing out the names. The locations are not in there because, again, we may propose a location, but the data will drive it as far as DOT is concerned. And then the second thing that you'll see is I didn't include the fines in there. Washington did. I did not, because we are going to have it on a fee schedule. The fee schedule is a procedural change annually, depending on what our permit fees, fine fees, et cetera, look like as far as doing business with the city. And that covers everything from building and zoning to planning to vendor permits, et cetera. That's a whole list. If we were to put a specific fee into the ordinance, and every time the fee changes, we'd have to change the ordinance. So we'll be back here going, hey, we need to change the ordinance again. This way, if we just leave it in the fee schedule, it's an operational, it's an administrative function, which can be updated annually, and we don't have to look at that again. Right now, it's set by the state. That doesn't mean legislatively they can't change it again. The first offense for speeding, for example, is 0. I have to give you a warning the first time out. The second time out is $50, and then it's $75 from then on. And you have to give them 10 miles an hour. The state of Connecticut says so. So again, there's some rules that come with this, right? But we do have to have the ordinance in place first. So that's why the mayor asked me to work on it, and as the local traffic authority, it would be actually the LTA's ordinance, but I did the homework on it, so. And take any questions you have?
So one of the things, there's a couple things that we're working on. One is parking, and the other one is speeding. So those are two big issues that we have. due to the amount of people that we have working in the city. So we are addressing both those things. So I will open the floor for discussion. Councilor Sheffield.
Chief, now as far as looking at the appeal, would that be appealing to the Superior Court in this case?
No, sir. So what this would do, this would switch all of the traffic as it related to speeding over to the city, similar to what we do with parking. We already have a parking appellate process. That is an individual that the mayor appoints. Can't be related to the police department because that would not be fair. So this would be the same thing. We just keep it with that appellate process because it's already there anyway, in place.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Depot.
So I have expressed my kind of criticism of these automated systems. I'm not, in the past, I haven't been generally a huge fan. I do like the way the ordinance is written. I like giving people the opportunity, you know, it's going to take people time to get used to having it there. So I'm going to assume that a lot of people are going to get that initial violation and go, oh crap, like, can't do that anymore. So hopefully that alone will be a deterrent.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I just wanted to address it.
My main question to you is, what do you expect the outcome of this to be? So at a place right now where we have whatever issues we have with speeding or not stopping at the light, what is your expectation of the outcome of placing one of these there in that intersection?
Yeah, so, I mean, based on the volume of complaints that I see, that the traffic authority sees on a regular basis, I understand that there's a need for traffic enforcement. The problem is the size of the agency, right? And I'm not advocating that we go out and hire 10 traffic officers because we can't afford it. But we do need something that equalizes the boots on the ground type as far as putting an enforcement process in place that will then cause people to slow down. I should tell you, too, that these can't be secret cameras. In other words, you're not just going to go by and capture a flash. We actually do have to put up markings, and it says reasonable distance. You know, I think 5 feet. No, a couple of 100 feet ahead of time, you know, we'll put up a marking. I think it changes driver behavior. So at the end of the day, what I'm looking for is a change in driver behavior. We have a very large, and it will continue to be so for quite a long time, transitional population based on our industries. And, you know, and that's, honestly, that's where most of our complaints come from. So I'm hoping to change the behavior and the patterns that we're currently seeing. So
to address one of your concerns up front, is one of the keys to this is going to be socialization. So we'll be putting it out on Facebook, on the website, in our newsletter. We also have a meeting with Electric Boat every 2 weeks with the safety manager down at Electric Boat. We will communicate it to him and get that out to the Electric Boat population. We'll also communicate it with the Pfizer population, and between those two, and we'll also get it out to the university, UConn Avery Point. So between those three organizations, those are the three largest contributors to traffic on city streets. So we'll make sure that we communicate it to them so that they are aware. So it's not going to be a surprise to anybody. Any measures that we're doing now with traffic, whether it's parking or with speeding, we're communicating with them already to let them know.
yeah, I mean, so just to give you an idea of what the volume is, so just traffic stops for us, and I know this because I just reviewed the annual profiling report for motor vehicle stops. So outside of parking, which we issue, you know, several thousand tickets for, we're at 1990 this year just for traffic stops. So that would, and we're not hitting anywhere near probably the volume that we should, but of course there's additional work that's required of the officers as far as, you know, criminal investigations. And if they're doing that, I don't have them available for traffic, so.
That was going to be my next question, is how do you think this will be received by the police officers, and how will it impact their ability to do their job either positively or negatively.
Yeah, so there's no, so legislatively, they can change the law and do whatever they need to as far as officers involved in traffic stop. There's been conversation as far as limiting our amount of contact regarding traffic is concerned. That is still up for discussion. Whatever laws come out as far as that is concerned will tell us what we can and we cannot stop motorists for. This is outside of that. This is all automated. We do have to have a screening process still, which means that there is some discretion on the part of the police department as far as the violators are concerned. We can go in and manually review the offense. So there is that option that's still there. It's not, I don't want people to get the wrong idea that it's just automation and it's just going to be a computer or AI that's kicking this out. There is going to be a human link in there in case there's a conversation or a change that does need to occur.
In addition to that, we're still going to have boots on the ground,
Right.
right? So it's not that, okay, we're looking at you here, but we're closing our eyes everywhere else. I mean, we're going to have automation to help us out as a force equalizer, and then the police, as they can, will be doing traffic enforcement, both speeding and parking enforcement.
Yeah, to give you an idea about the volume, right? So we just did, so again, we have to collect the data, but one of our roads, Rainville, saw 200,000 in 30 days. So, I mean, that's the kind of volume. That's just one location. I can't have an officer out there measuring 200,000 cars in 30 days. It's just not going to happen. So,
Any other questions or comment? Councilor Sheffield?
How many of these would you like to set up?
4.
You want 4, okay.
Right, but again, I'm requesting 4, but if the data doesn't support it, the state will come back and tell me no.
Okay. And they'll tell you maybe you'll have 2 or something
Correct.
like that? Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't get the final say on this. It's all
Okay.
DOT. Yes, sir.
Deputy Mayor, do you put this in your hand?
Yes. Is this month's PACT meeting, is it on the 21st? Or is it the
I don't
fourth
have
Thursday
that
usually?
date in front of me, so.
Hold on.
Is it the fourth Thursday or the third Thursday?
Third,
Well, it should be
Okay,
the
so
third
it's the
Thursday.
21st.
right.
Yeah, 21st.
It is, okay.
So I just wanted to point out that if people have questions about these cameras or anything else related to the police doing their job, the PACT meeting is the perfect opportunity to do that. It's on the third Thursday at 6 PM. Often in here, but sometimes other places, so check our website. But there's a lot of information in the ordinance, and obviously people can contact you directly, but I know some people are more comfortable coming to a meeting setting. It's not recorded, there's notes taken, but it's informal, and people can come ask you whatever questions they have about this or any other programs. And I just want to encourage people to do that, because with anything new, obviously, it can be scary to some people. So I just want to give people the opportunity, and I'll probably I know we have to vote on this several times, so I'll probably try to remind people every
Right.
time to please attend a PACT meeting if you have any questions. That's the best. I think that's the best, would you agree, the best
Yes.
place for the public to come to ask
Yeah,
those types of
and
questions?
like you said, Deputy, you can have, we have to have 2 public hearings with any ordinance anyway, so they're welcome to come to Mayor Council and discuss it there as well.
Thank you.
So like the Deputy Mayor said, on Thursday, 21 November at 6 o'clock, there'll be a police and community together meeting here in council chambers in City Hall. Any, Councilor Piazza?
Thank you, Mayor. So do we have sites that we actually want to put the cameras up at? Has that been decided yet?
There are 4 sites, yes.
And they've already been selected?
Well, in my world, yes, but that doesn't mean that DOT will accept them.
Right.
We're working on a last data set now, and I don't really want to go out and announce what roadways we're going to put them on, because they may or may not be put forward at this point, right? This is very young. The first step that we have to do before we even get into that discussion is we have to have an ordinance. That's what the Public Act says, so.
Thank you.
Councilor Sheffield, did I see your hand?
Yeah.
You have the floor.
Now, you said the meeting was Thursday at 6?
That's correct,
Okay.
21st.
Oh, and that's open to the public?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And we have had, in the last 3 PAC meetings, we have had citizens come and express concerns, and actions have been taken on those concerns. Anyone else? Okay, I'll take a motion, move this to the mayor and council of November 18th, 2024.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. All right, the next one is traffic calming request form, chief. And
So-
this is informing.
It is. So again, that goes along with the complaints. There's a lot of requests that we get for different signage, and the number one request is for speed bumps. But there's no formal process as far as the requesting part. And there's some homework that needs to be done logistically before we say yes or no to that. And the reason why I'm a big advocate of that is because that's your consistency part, right? If I need to explain to a resident that, yes, you can have a speed bump, but the next one can't, what am I using for the criteria as far as that is concerned? So, based on the fact that we didn't have a process, I put a form together with some narrative from other jurisdictions that I've worked at, and other criteria that we have used as far as the numbers are concerned. For example, does that roadway see 500 cars a day? If it doesn't see 500 cars a day, the volume really is not there to justify the cost as far as, the road calming is concerned. Is it seeing an 85% compliance on speeding? Where that's what the DOT standard is, because if it is seeing an 85%, while you do have the outliers, you may not have the speeding complaint that you think you do. But again, as part of the request, we would go out if we needed to. If the local traffic authority told us to, then we would go out and put up a data set for 14 days, and then we would bring that back. And that also allows an informed conversation between the local traffic authority and the requesting individual to say yes or no of what kind of measures that we're looking at. So this is a formal process. This will go in a document or a file. We'd start that collection. It gives us the history. It gives us the reason. There is some homework that's required of the resident, for example, going out and doing some door-to-door work with the rest of their neighbors, because if we go ahead and put something in and the rest of the neighborhood doesn't like it, we want that to be squashed ahead of time, or at least addressed as far as other concerns. And somebody else may have another idea. No, I want a traffic light. I want a stop sign. I want to yield. Okay, that's up to that neighborhood to have a conversation, because we're talking about quality of life for neighborhoods, right? So that's up to that neighborhood to have a conversation first before they then bring that forward to the local traffic authority.
Okay, I'll open the floor for discussion. Deputy Mayor Depot?
So this application, is it a paper application they have to come get from the police station? Is it going to be on our website?
Yes, so I was asked that. So we can't make this electronic. This just gives you a visual on what it would look like. So we can make it electronic as far as the fill-in. We can have the explanation up front, and then we can have a fill-in-the-blank type process as a PDF, as an Excel, as another type of spreadsheet, and that can either be sent electronically or mailed to the local traffic. Understand that this does not come to the police department. This goes to the local traffic authority, right?
Okay, any other questions or comments? I didn't know you were done.
No,
We're done. Please continue. You have the floor.
I just want to comment, I think this is a great idea, because I get lots of complaints, so it's hard to, generally, my response is to email the police department or call dispatch and lodge your complaint, and I think having a formal process will be much easier, and I think will help people, because I think a lot of times it's, the information they think you need is not all the information you actually need to make a proper assessment. So I think it's helpful to say, this is the actual information that we need that will be helpful. So I do think this is going to be really helpful.
And there's also an option given to them, and again, this could be modified by council, but there is an option in here. Do you want to come speak at a public meeting? If they do, they can present their material to the council if they want to do it as a whole. So,
I think, as I always try to do, encourage participation, and I like that it encourages people to participate in the process more instead of just giving you their complaint, which is usually, again, not enough information. You usually have to go back and forth and get more information. So I think this will be a much more efficient way of addressing their issues, considering this is just such a big issue we have in the city, so.
Right.
Thank you.
So if you were to ask most people on exit routes from Electric Boat and from Pfizer what the issues are, they're gonna say speeding. And they're gonna say, you know, they're blowing through stop signs, they're driving 150 miles an hour, that kind of thing. We hear a lot of that, a lot of excessive speeding, so we're taking a look at that. We're looking at different measures, traffic calming measures that we can do. And this is a tool that will help us get there. Now, there's also needs to be the understanding that just because you fill out a form, it's not a wish list. Just because you fill it out doesn't necessarily mean that you're gonna get what you want. There may be an alternative measure that we could do to get you equivalent results. Any other comments? Councilor Piazza.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to make a comment in reference to the stop signs on Smith Street, Smith Street and Baker. So I did go by to see, because there was a question if there are lights on it, so I actually sent the council what it looks like when you're coming down the road. But on Baker, I'm glad that they took off the sign like oncoming traffic doesn't have to stop, because I said, did they take those down? So I went down and looked, I was like, yeah, they took them down. I was like, so, but I'm thankful for that, and, you know, I think there's a good measure to move and, you know, not drastically and not have all kinds of ordinances or rules and regulations.
Yeah, it just gives something to, it gives you the historical documents, it gives you an archive, if you need to go back and research something,
Right.
it's right here,
Right,
so.
right. Great, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, that's it. Thank you, Chief.
All right,
Thank you, Chief.
All right, we're gonna move on. ARPA, the first thing is to rescind a small business grant request. Let me get to this in here. Okay, so, this was authorized by Resolution R-23-10-124. At a previous committee of the whole, we discussed why we could not accommodate this, and as a result, bringing a new resolution to rescind that resolution. We're in the process. So what happened was, a couple months ago, CCM sent out an email that talked about the definition of obligation, and that is the money needs to be obligated through a PO or a contract by the end of the year, and that's why the flurry of activity that we have. It's also allowed us the opportunity to review the process that we have and some of the resolutions that were out there. This is one of the resolutions that we're not going to be able to execute, so I am recommending that we rescind this resolution. And with that, I'll open the floor for discussion. Deputy Mayor Depot.
So I know that we discussed that we were working with a third party to do these grants, and that discussions with that third party somehow didn't work out. When was that?
Over the summer, right?
It started, I believe, in spring to summertime, and that's when the back and forth was going.
Because what we were trying to do is we were trying to get them to be done by this time frame this year, because we didn't want to go into next year, and they were unable to accomplish that. We were unable to get to an agreement on how to do that.
So when that happened, did we pursue any other third party? Because there's a lot of programs that will do this kind of grant administration. Did we pursue that at all? Because I would imagine that obligated, you know, if we found a third party to do the administration part of it, we could issue a purchase order to the third party to administrate the program, and that would obligate the funds if we did that by the end of the year. Was there any talks to look for another company to do this work?
Do you know if Sierra reached out?
I do not know the answer to that.
So I don't know if she reached out to other organizations or not, knowing that her plate is quite full.
So I
So
guess,
that didn't happen.
so I guess I have an issue with, I guess the fact that we didn't try to find a creative way to work around this. I think the $100,000 grant program was a great idea, and we were all on board with it. I think our local small businesses are one of the biggest sufferers from COVID, and the ARPA funds are intended to assist in things that were damaged by COVID. So I would have liked to, for example, we could have had economic development review and see if we could put a committee together internally. We could have had the chair of economic development who, unfortunately is not able to make it, but, I know that, for example, Councilor Norris has done grant programs in the past, and knows how to facilitate those. So, I think it's a missed opportunity for us that we are only now addressing it months after the talks fell apart. And it is rather late in the year. But I don't, from discussing ARPA funds with residents, I think they'd be disappointed that this is a decision that we made on this item in particular, and that we weren't given an opportunity to find a creative solution. Because had the council been made aware of this back in the spring, I think the council would have maybe made some better suggestions than just nixing it from our list.
Any other comments, Councilor Sheffield?
It was my understanding that we weren't going to have the money available out of the 100,000 for small business loans due to other things that we were trying to do, and we weren't sure how much the tennis court was going to come to, and we sort of kept that small business thing on the back burner, and then now we seem to have at least that much after this contract, but now it's too late to grab somebody to utilize that money. That was my understanding.
No, it was originally earmarked for that program. It was just when the talks it was going to be administered by a third party, and then for whatever reason, the agreement couldn't be reached when they were going back and forth throughout. Like I said, it started in the spring, and I don't know when the final their comeback was that they can't we can't come to an agreement with that administration of that project. So then what we did once we received that letter from the CCM, we've started reallocating and focusing more on the park.
Yeah, that was and I didn't realize there were talks that, like I said, broke down that long ago, because I was certainly in favor of the small business more so than the tennis court. But we weren't sure how much that tennis court was going to come to. It could have gone to over $1 million, and we wouldn't have been able to even allocate for the small business. So then we got a decent enough bid to where we didn't overspend on it, to where I felt, maybe that 100,000 we could use for the small business, but the talks were already done with. So I don't know what to make of it now. So
Okay,
I yield back.
all right, anyone else? Deputy Mayor Depot?
So I just want to clarify, so we voted on the ARPA list back in September of last year, originally, correct?
Yes, that's gonna be on here in a minute.
So was the small business grant the only thing that has been removed from the list?
No. So if we look at the list, you'll see that the Washington Park Internet was on that list that has been removed. The Municipal Document Control Center of 120,000 has been removed, and the Rain Gardens for 25,000 has been removed as well.
And we have discussed that at previous committee of the wholes.
So when we removed those from the list, when the committee decided to remove them from the list, right? Because that's who made the decision, is the city committee that's been
Right.
established?
Brought to, yeah, and it was brought to the council.
But the council should have voted on it at that time that it was removed from the list, correct?
Not necessarily. What I'm doing today is I'm bringing an amended resolution with an updated list, and this will replace the list, and there's an email from the attorney that agrees with that approach. So that's the second part of this, is that there's gonna be an amended resolution to replace the original list with an updated list of projects that we have talked to council about. And this list will be approved and will be executed, and we will use this list. And so if you go back to the very beginning, I started to bring things to the council, and the council said, no, we don't want that, we want a list. So we worked on getting a list, and then the list was basically a shopping list. Nothing was authorized to be expended by that list. Everything that we spent money on went through the committee of the whole, and then went through the mayor and council, and was acted on and voted on by the legislative process of the mayor and council. And so now, in the process of getting at the end of this and cleaning up administratively the paperwork, we talked to the attorney, and I talked to John Burt about how they go about doing things. And in the past, we've rescinded and then put in a new resolution. The attorney didn't recommend that approach. He said if you amend it, you achieve the same thing. And so that's what I did, and that's what I brought to the council tonight with projects that are on there that we have talked about at committees of the whole.
We're saying economic development doesn't have the manpower to be able to facilitate a grant program of $100,000. How many man hours do we estimate that would take, a $100,000 grant program?
I honestly don't have an answer to that, because I don't know what the process would be to do that for qualifications, and what the grant would be and how many grants it would be. So I honestly don't know what that process would be.
And we would also need, finance would have to be involved, and they don't have the bandwidth as well. So, I mean, it was looked at internally to see if we could do this. We have talked about this at a previous committee of the whole, and we said we couldn't make it, so.
But if we haven't analyzed how much work that would take, how do we know that we can't do that work?
We have analyzed, we did internally. We talked to Sierra, and we talked to finance and said, can you take on this additional program to get this done? Because it's not just approving grant, it's not just issuing grants, it's also the vetting of the request, and then processing them, and then distributing them. So there's a lot involved in it, and it was evaluated internally.
So if the funds were obligated to this grant program internally, would that not satisfy the end of the year obligation if we were to create a grant program and then we would have a year to facilitate a program?
Not from my understanding, because they want you to have, like I said, a purchase order or a contract in place. If you had those grants in theory lined up with who it was going to, even though it wasn't paid out, you could have that. But I don't read it as you can cut a PO to yourself for a grant program based on the definition of the obligation that we received.
Can we ask because the SCOG are we using them for interpretation and advice on the ARPA?
We did in the beginning, we haven't gone back to them.
Didn't we use some of the funds to pay for them to advise us in these situations?
We did for the first 3 years, yes. For the first, actually 2 years, 1 year or 2 years.
I think we only did one payment that I
Okay,
recall.
we did
but-
one payment for 1 year.
What was the amount of that payment?
Do you
It's,
cheat and
it's
find-
4,000.
So it was 4,000 just for the 1 year, okay. Is it possible to get an opinion from either a neighboring town or someone, the SCOG, on whether or not we could do something similar where we designate it for an internal business grant program? Because the council is the one that decided that that program was important, and I agree with Councilor Sheffield that, you know, it was a good idea, which is why we voted on it. We put it high on our list. I think if there's any way that, you know, I know that it's later in the process, I think all of us were not, I think it's worth checking that whether or not we can do that. I think that we can, some of these other projects on the list would have fallen under regular budgetary expenses had we not used ARPA funding, whereas this grant program would not. So my feeling is that we need to check all options before we take it off of our list.
Okay, anyone else? Counselor Norris? I see your hand raised.
Yes, one, I apologize for being tardy. This small business grant, I think is very important in trying to do everything we can, and I'm not quite sure what that is at this point in the game. But excuse me if I'm wrong, and this is the part that puzzles me a little bit, so correct me, please. So we were working with another organization that was going to administratively work through the process of making recommendations of which businesses should receive whatever the grant value is in this program. Am I correct?
Yes,
So then the next part was that, and again, excuse me if my timeline is wrong, but I think I heard that this other group decided that they couldn't handle this at the tail end of September, beginning of October, or am I wrong about that?
I don't have the exact date of when it started, I believe, in the spring, summer, and then there was some back and forth, I believe, that Sierra had with it. And then that's when it kind of, the decision was that that it wouldn't work.
it was, yeah, it was in, if I remember correctly, it was late summer. It might have been August, September, I don't know. But it's not like, well, it doesn't matter. So it is what the deliberations fell through.
Sure. So I can understand that and I appreciate that, and I do know things like this do happen. But moving forward, if this, you know, some type of funding comes about again, I just want to make sure that we have something procedurally in place for staff to follow, that we don't fall into this situation again. So if we do know that the organization we're working with decides that, and I don't know what the particulars were, that they can't do this, and I'm sure there's a reason that we don't know about, that at least we have a contingency. Because in my mind, this was incredibly important. I think if we would have started this in August, that we would have had plenty of quote-unquote bandwidth to go through this process. If anything, we could have just increased the amount of funding to the facade program. So there are so many other things that we could do. But instead of going backwards, I just hope that in the future, something like this happens, that we at least have a contingency to keep moving the program forward.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so what I will do on this, on the amended resolution and on the rescind of small business grants, is I will table it until, right, because I'm not gonna get a motion to move this to the mayor and council. So, do you,
So one of the other things is, and this was in talking with Bob, if it's on the list, not that, I know we're kind of late in the game right now, but money, if the project's on this list, the monies can be moved within the list. So even though that project did get zeroed out, if that ruling does come, we can still redistribute among these projects. So I mean, again, that's a council decision if you're comfortable with doing that. And again, you wouldn't have to re-vote on it if things were transferred in here. It's kind of like a bond fund where you can move the dollar amounts through the projects. You just can't add new projects to it.
yeah, the
So it's-
authorization of the individual projects goes through the mayor and council as
And
a
then,
resolution,
right, and then we bring back all
which
the
is what we
individual.
talked about all
So,
along.
I mean, that would be a council, I mean, if we wanted to table, and I can reach out and try to get some opinions, if there's more comfort with that,
Okay.
that's completely up to.
And we'll do that, we'll table this until, that's not true. We're gonna, Counselor Norris?
I'm sorry to interrupt. I do have one more other question. So picking up what the finance director just said, do we have the ability to, whatever funds that is going to be, whatever the money for the small business grant is now going to be used for? So let's say, I'm just making this up, using it as a hypothetical. So the pickup truck that we went ahead and moved forward on for the fire department, can we then appropriate those funds to be used for some type of small business grant out of the city general fund? Because essentially what we did was, we had money budgeted in fire CIP. We're not using that, we're now using this American Rescue money, which frees up that fire department money. Can we allocate that out of the budget, or their budget, to another purpose, which would be a small business grant sometime in the spring?
So if you recall, when those, the pickup truck replacement and the ladder truck repairs did come to council, that question was asked, and I did say that right now, we were kind of in, I don't want to say panic mode, but we were trying to get all the funds obligated, and that was one of the things that did come out of that discussion, was that if there's additional projects down the road that we didn't get done, and we feel that they were, in the best interest of the city, that we could go into that capital fund and repurpose that capital that was in there. So yes, and I have, just hearing the conversation, I have some ideas. I want to sit with the mayor and maybe come back with something for the council that may help with this.
Thanks very much.
Okay, so what I want to do is I want to move both these resolutions to a future meeting, which is the meeting of the mayor and council of November 25th. I think that's right.
Sorry, the meeting of the cow.
The cow.
Yeah,
Of the 25th.
not the mayor and
Yes.
council.
Sorry, you're right, thank you. The committee of the whole of the 25th.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Okay, it's unanimous. All right. I think that's it. The next thing takes us to meeting rules. So,
Hey, Ron.
there was some discussion in the past over some things that happened at previous meetings, and it was suggested that I incorporate rules. I did incorporate rules. and expanded the rules to not only address the issue that was discussed, but also others. And a couple things that I want to talk about. One, I want to remind the council about FOIA requirements, and that is, do not send an email, text, verbal, or written communications to other counselors talking about things that should be discussed publicly in front of the residents. If you do it to 4 people or more, you've just had a meeting, and that's a violation of FOIA. If you do it to 3 or less, you don't directly violate FOIA, but you violate the spirit of FOIA, which has been discussed by Russell Blair and by Tom Hennick, his predecessor. So that's something just to be a reminder. One of the things that I am trying to do is I am trying to run a meeting, and in the process of running a meeting, I'm trying to eliminate distractions and also have full participation from the city councilors who are involved in the meeting, whether you are on Zoom or whether you're in the, around the table. So there was some concern about some of the things that I said last time, but I went online, did some research. One of the things it talked about is phone usage during meetings. It says, using your phone during a meeting is generally considered disrespectful and distracting. It is important to give your full attention to the meeting and the person speaking. Here are some tips for using your phone during meetings. Put your phone away before the meeting starts. Put your phone away and leave it on your desk. Keep your phone on silent. A ringing phone can interrupt the meeting and distract others. Don't check your phone. Avoid looking at your phone even if it's under the table. Take personal calls in private. If you need to take a personal call, go to a private area. Only use your phone for emergencies. Only use your phone if it's absolutely necessary for someone to contact you. And then Zoom, I found a couple things, and it says etiquette for meeting attendees. Turn on your video. Doing this creates a more direct sense of engagement with other participants. Be mindful of background noise, limit distractions, avoid multitasking, and prepare materials in advance. Now, the intent of what I put out last week was to get control of the meeting. That caused some concern from council members. And so that's why I have it on the committee of the whole tonight to discuss. And then eventually I will probably refer meeting rules to the Rules and Procedures Committee, of which the deputy mayor is the chair. And then they can come up with rules and then bring those back to the committee of the whole, and then they can be voted on. And then our rules will be amended for this mayor and council session. So with that, I will open the floor for discussion. Deputy Mayor Depot.
So you started out by saying it was requested that you add rules to the meeting. The rules of our meeting are voted on by the council. The council has the authority to make rules for the council. I understand the interest in wanting to make sure the council is engaged. I have not found, counselors to be distracted to any level that would make it an issue that we would need to address as a council to change the rules. But also, I think if there is a concern, I think the initial action would be to refer it to the Rules and Procedures Committee to take a look at those things and see if they think that it warrants a referral to the whole council to make a rule change. And I know you're saying it was expressed there was concern expressed. I expressed concern about Zoom, about doing roll call votes. The chair has the ability to do a roll call vote in the case that someone's camera is off. I am not in favor of forcing people to turn their cameras on Zoom. I don't think it's required. I don't think it's necessary. And I know I have Zoomed in very rarely to meetings, but I have Zoomed in mostly because I'm ill. And in those situations, I don't think it's appropriate to force people to turn their cameras on. They're making a special, exception. I'm sure, as everyone else, when I'm ill, I'd rather not be at the meeting. But because we have Zoom and that ability, it makes it easier to do that and to participate and to make sure that we don't miss anything. However, I'm not in favor of making people turn their cameras on. I don't think it's required. I do think that a roll call vote makes sense, which we already have a mechanism for, and I don't think that we have issues that require any of the proposed rule changes.
Okay, Counselor Sheffield?
I agree with Deputy Mayor Depot. I think I've been ill and I've had my camera off, so and there hasn't been a problem before. And I don't think, and I think this council has been very attentive in the meetings. So, with the slight problem that was last week, I don't think that is going to be reflective of the entire council term. And once again, we have also voted on council rules, so I guess we would have to amend it if it had to go to a committee. So I'm not sure if that has to be done as well, since we've already voted on the rules for the 2-year term. So I'm not sure if anybody really wants to amend just for making sure everyone is on camera for Zoom. So I'm with Deputy Mayor Depot. I don't think this should be an issue. So thank you.
Any other counselor? Counselor Norris, you have the floor.
Thank you. So, Mayor, I agree with you 100% that being present at a council meeting is priority number 1. If we are unable to attend, Zoom becomes option number 2. And I understand that being there, being on camera, does increase, at least to the audience and the residents we serve, a higher level of engagement. Absolutely agree. I have different an opinion, and I agree with Deputy Mayor and Councilman Sheffield on this one. Like, for example, last week, I believe it was last week, I was not in a situation to be at council. I could participate, but there was no way I wanted the way I looked to be viewed by others. So being on a meeting and being forced to turn my camera on and not looking presentable or looking horrid in that particular case, I'm being forced to not participate in a council meeting, which then adds other dimensions to the meeting and quorums and votes and everything else. So kind of leery on that respect. In terms of cell phones and everything else, again, same thing, I'm trying to understand what is it that we're trying to control. If it's a matter of, hey, don't be having conversations about agenda items with the public, I get that. But at the same time, what are we trying to control? Is it we're not engaged? Because we've all been in meetings where in the meeting we're fully engaged and we're also looking at text message on our phone. So again, I don't know if there's any regulatory situation that says, hey, you can't have your cell phone up or you can't even respond to a text. So therefore I go back to what are we trying to control? Or is it we're not trying to control something, we're trying to control council? And so I'm just going to leave it at that.
So one thing regarding text, if you guys are going to text, which I don't agree with, but you cannot text to each other regarding anything that is being discussed at the meeting. So if you're texting, there's no way of knowing if you are or if you're not, but the council has spoken on that, and then I will let it go. Any other questions or comments? Councilor Piazza?
First, a question is where you pulled the information that you said you researched, where was that from? Was that from a specific site? Where did it come
I
up
don't
from?
remember the site. I pulled it from a site.
Okay. And my other one is, I know when I was first on council, and I had asked about phones, and it was said that I could have my phone out and I could have my phone actually up. That way, if I had an emergency call, I could tend to it, but to please walk out of the room. So that's what I was told from the beginning. And that was before the 2 years of the rules being adjusted. So, so at that, So like, and I'm sure we all get messages and so forth as things come in and texts and so forth. So we might look at our phones to see what it is, but I haven't seen anything that's quite distracting where somebody's, typing away some messages.
No, there are counselors that have communicated a text during the council meeting, and I don't think that's appropriate. But clearly, that doesn't bother them, and that's okay with the council, so you have spoken. And with that, is there anything else to discuss on the meeting rules?
If I can just add one other thing.
Councilor Norris?
'Cause this came up last week also. I think the beauty of having our cell phones, and in particular now our iPads, is that it gives us and affords us the opportunity where we hear some presentation or a resolution, we have past minutes at our fingertips. So it allows us to quickly, in my case now, I can go back and look at previous emails of which we have previous minutes, and I can quickly refresh my own failing memory instead of bringing up a question or a situation that rehashes something that was already dealt with maybe a year ago or even 2 months ago. So I truly appreciate having the availability of this technology to help me, what I would consider to be less time consuming with my questions to council.
Okay,
Thank you, Mayor.
good. Anyone else? Okay, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second?
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, council, for coming out.